civile et l'épanouissement de nos populations. Mesdames et Messieurs, les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, chers collègues, sans anticiper sur les conclusions du présent sommet africain sur le climat, dont le succès est pour notre continent d'une importance capitale, permettez-moi d'évoquer le chemin à parcourir, à mon humble avis, avant de nous retrouver début décembre à la COP 28 de Dubaï et parler d'une seule voix. En effet, nous aurons mi-septembre à New York, en marge de l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies, des discussions de haut niveau qui porteront sur la création d'un marché carbone souverain mondial conforme aux intérêts de nos nations africaines. Puis, c'est à Brazzaville, en République du Congo, que se tiendra les 26, 27 et 28 octobre prochains le sommet des 3 bassins des écosystèmes de biodiversité et des forêts tropicales, dernière étape avant la COP 28. Un sommet voulu par les présidents du Brésil, de l'Indonésie, de la République démocratique du Congo et de la République du Congo. Un sommet creusé d'une coopération entre le bassin du Congo, celui de l'Amazonie et celui du Bornéo-Mékong, Asie du Sud-Est, et que j'aurai l'insigne honneur d'abriter en ma qualité de président de la Commission climat du bassin du Congo. Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Mesdames, Messieurs, les 3 bassins concentrent 80% de la biodiversité mondiale et constituent le régulateur de l'équilibre carbone de la planète. Le sommet de Brazzaville visera, dans une coopération sud-sud, à soutenir les efforts des Nations unies en faveur de la restauration et de la conservation des forêts tropicales, des tourbières et des mangroves. Mais bien plus, elle visera à mettre en place une plateforme de propositions et, j'ose le dire, à établir un rapport de force capable de peser de tout son poids sur les résolutions qui seront adoptées à la COP 28. La coopération entre les 3 bassins ne sera donc pas un club exclusif replié sur les seuls intérêts des pays membres. Bien au contraire, en agissant sur les négociations de la COP 28, elle servira de levier aux exigences de justice climatique et d'accès aux financements internationaux de l'ensemble des pays du Sud et en particulier aux exigences de notre continent. Dès lors, la réussite du sommet de Brazzaville après celle de Nairobi, est déterminante pour l'Afrique. Que le secrétaire général des Nations Unies soit d'ores et déjà remercié pour son appui inestimable. Mesdames et messieurs, les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, et vous tous qui vous battez pour la cause climatique, je vous invite à nous rejoindre à Brazzaville pour ce rendez-vous qui précédera la COP 28 de Dubaï. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Let me now give the floor to President Isaias Afwerki, the President of Eritrea. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellencies, heads of state and government, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me first to express our gratitude to President William Ruto for hosting the African Climate Summit and for the warm hospitality accorded to us. Climate change poses, by all accounts, one of the most pressing challenges of our times. Its impact in Africa will be immensely aggravated, compounded as it is by a host of other major hurdles. Extreme weather change that entail more frequent and intensified droughts, irreversible change to Africa's ecosystem, marine biodiversity, as well as rich flora and fauna, cannot bode well in Africa's potential and aspirations for rapid economic growth. They will also mortgage the opportunities and livelihood of future generations. True, there are reservations and skepticism on the accuracy of the forecasts and doomsday predictions in relation to the voluminous scientific data collected so far. There are also those who bemoan media hype and sweeping generalizations pronounced in various conferences. But these differences of emphasis notwithstanding, the gravity and urgency of the situation will be downplayed only at our collective peril. In this perspective, and in our modest view, efficacy and impact of our collective response is positively correlated with the linkage and synergy we develop in a three-pronged approach: the national, continental, and global platforms and networks. The policies we articulate and the implementation mechanisms we map out at the individual national level will not provide the primary panacea to this global challenge. The second tier approach that has particular relevance to the summit, here are the programs that can be pursued at the collective continental level and supplement our individual national endeavors. In this context, Africa can tap and incorporate the numerous scientific measures undertaken by global players in the field to bolster its purposeful mitigation measures. At the institutional level, it will be important for our continent to establish its own professional African advisory panel to undertake timely research and complement available literature on the subject. The structure can cascade down to regional and national levels as appropriate, so as to generate comprehensive and accurate scientific research and information that has wider validity and applicability for all the constituent parts. Africa must strive to foster and develop viable and national framework of cooperation on climate change at the global level or in the third track. This is vital both for reasons of synergy and also because Africa deserves much support as it has largely been on the receiving end. Indeed, its greenhouse gas emission footprint has been and remains comparatively small. In conclusion, may I remind this August gathering that Africa mobilizes its own resources rather than extend hands for handouts that may aggravate the existing situation by inviting interference and corrupt practices, while mobilizing our own resources will be enabling and motivating creativity at the level of the continent. I urge everyone to not be attracted by the billions that are being promised by so-called donors. Rather, we would like to mobilize our own resources and get away from this dependency that will definitely compromise everything at the level of the continent. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A round of applause for President Afwerki. Let me now take this opportunity to request my brother, His Excellency President Paul Kagame, the President of Rwanda, to make his statement. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, Excellency Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of the Comoros and Chair of the African Union, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, Chair of the African Union Commission, Excellency Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Union Commission, Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Excellencies, First Ladies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First, I wish to thank President Ruto for hosting us in a beautiful and vibrant Nairobi for the Africa Climate Summit, organized in collaboration with the African Union. Every year, the world is reminded of the real and growing threat of climate change. Recent findings tell us all kinds of stories, including that July was the hottest month ever recorded in human history. Africa continues to carry the burden of rising temperatures, despite contributing the smallest share of global greenhouse gas emissions. We cannot just keep talking about it without doing what is required to fix the problem. This is unfair, but in the long run, playing the blame game is not the answer. A more pragmatic approach is for Africa to be a key player in the search for global climate solutions. Africa stands united and should remain so in this and in its position. In this regard, allow me to take this opportunity to commend President Dr. William Ruto for his exceptional leadership of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change. In Rwanda, we want the private sector to play a greater role in building a green economy. Our strategy is to position ourselves as an attractive destination for international climate financing and investment. That's why the COP27, at that summit, Rwanda launched Ireme Invest, a green investment facility created by the Rwanda Green Fund in partnership with the Development Bank of Rwanda. So far, more than 200 million has been mobilized, US dollars that is, from domestic and international partners, including the European Investment Bank and the Green Climate Fund. We have also been working closely with the International Monetary Fund as a participant in the Resilient and Sustainability Trust. We have access to long-term financing to further integrate climate into our economic policies. This is a good sign that the international community is taking seriously the call to reform our global financial architecture. But there is still room for improvement. In this context, I welcome the discussions held at the Paris Summit for a new global financial pact. The Bridgetown Initiative, spearheaded by Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, also deserves consideration and serious attention. Any meaningful structural change must favor debt restructuring and lower interest rates, as President William Ruto has so eloquently explained. As chair in office of the Commonwealth, Rwanda supports the development of a multidimensional vulnerability index led by the United Nations in partnership with small island developing states. Gross national income, GNI, does not accurately measure a country's vulnerability to climate change. In any case, small islands and developing states should not be penalized for having higher income levels. Ultimately, what Africa wants is fair and equal partnership, which takes our priorities into account. That is going to be the basis for trust and solidarity. I hope this summit will serve as a good foundation for discussions later in this year at COP28. I thank you for your kind attention, and Mr. President, thank you for convening us here.
Round of applause for President Paul Kagame. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now is the opportunity for President Salva Kiir, the President of South Sudan, to make his statement. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Bana ba Kenya namugeze ndi mulembe. Mulembe gundi. Oya mumbe kama rumwelezera ko bulayi bwo kuba nenda kama tunda. Ko buru mu Kenya.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya and Chairman of the Committee of African Governments on Climate Change, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, United Nations Secretary General, Your Excellency John Kerry, United States Climate Change Envoy, Your Excellency Dr. Sultan Ahmed Al-Jaber, COP28 President Designate and the UAE Special Envoy for Climate Change. Honorable Ministers for Climate Change, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me start my remarks by expressing my deepest gratitude to the government and the people of Kenya for the warm welcome and for successfully hosting this first Africa Climate Change Summit. Excellencies, the biggest threat faced by humanity today is climate change. It is a threat whose effects are felt by all. But its causes have their roots in the action of a few. Take Africa for instance. We collectively emit less than 5% of carbon, but we are the most vulnerable region. My country, South Sudan, with tiny emissions, for example, is currently experiencing floods, droughts, heat waves, and irregular rain patterns. We have over 2 million people who have lost their livelihoods as a result of climate change and are in dire need of support. In the face of this reality, we cannot continue to lament about the impact of climate change, nor continue to wait for the financial support that has been promised but not delivered. We must seize this opportunity given to us by this African Climate Summit to come up with additional ways to address the impact of climate change. Why am I calling for additional measures? The reason is very clear. The $100 billion that was pledged at the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP15, in 2009, has not been delivered. More importantly, that amount is not enough because Africa alone requires over $3 trillion to enable, mitigate, and adapt to the climate change. As Africans, we need to understand that transitioning to low carbon economy will come from within, and its path lies in operationalizing the theme of this summit, driving green growth and climate finance solutions for Africa, and this is the way to go. Driving green growth will allow us to come up with solutions that will address the financial gap between what was pledged in Copenhagen summit in 2009 and the actual figure needed by African countries to combat climate change. Excellencies, in South Sudan, we are endowed with the natural resources, and the challenges we face as a country are about finding ways to exploit these resources in a sustainable manner. The key question we have always is how do we responsibly exploit these resources in ways that contribute towards mitigation and adaptation to the impact of climate change. Part of our answer to these challenges lie in aligning our climate change policy with climate action plan that cuts emissions and adapt to climate impact. Presently, South Sudan has developed its second nationally determined contributions with the goal of generating 3,000 megawatts of renewable energy from hydro, solar, with wind, and geothermal gas. This to us is the path to net zero carbon by 2050. On top of this planned path, we aim to embark on climate-smart agriculture to meet our food needs. Apart from changing how we plan our development to mitigate the impact of climate change, we also have a vast potential in carbon trading that can generate further revenue to finance our climate adaptation. Our natural forests and the Sud wetlands have the largest capacity to absorb carbon in the world. In fact, I'm proud to say that the Sud wetland in my country is the third we can take individually as countries to reverse the impact of climate change. However, we in the global south expect developed countries to play their part, first by cutting their emissions by over 45%, and second, by living to their commitment that was made in 2009 in Copenhagen to finance climate adaptation in developing countries. We cannot meet the target of maintaining the temperature rise to 1.5 Celsius by 2030 if the developed countries fail to meet their commitments, both in providing resources to assist with climate adaptation and leading the way in cutting their own emissions. Once again, I congratulate Kenya for successfully organizing the first Africa Climate Summit. I hope that all of us will speak with one voice at COP28 in Dubai. The time for climate action is now. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Let's give a round of applause to President Salva Kiir. Let me now take this opportunity to request President Macky Sall, the President of Senegal, to make his statement. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, President William Ruto, dear brother, chers collègues, chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Monsieur le Président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Monsieur le Président en exercice de l'Union africaine, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs de délégation, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, distingués participants. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président Ruto, pour votre aimable invitation, pour l'accueil convivial qui nous a été réservé à l'occasion de ce premier sommet africain sur le climat. Je voudrais également saluer votre leadership qui, encore une fois, a été démontré dans votre message très puissant ce matin. Le moment est en effet propice pour faire le point sur l'état de mise en œuvre des engagements sur le climat et convenir d'une position africaine commune. Tout le monde le sait, les périls liés au réchauffement climatique continuent d'affecter nos pays. Et pire, ils se sont même aggravés. Le dernier rapport du GIEC confirme que les pays africains resteront parmi les plus impactés par le changement climatique, alors même qu'ils contribuent pour moins de 4% des émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Face à l'urgence climatique, l'Afrique, il faut le dire, réagit à la mesure de ses moyens à travers des initiatives novatrices et la recherche de solutions sobres en carbone et résilientes au changement climatique. Au plan continental, 11 pays de la bande sahélo-saharienne exécutent le projet de la Grande Muraille verte depuis une décennie. À ce titre, le Sénégal met en œuvre un programme de reboisement de 500 000 hectares de forêts classées et de 500 000 hectares de plantations pour endiguer l'avancée du désert, lutter contre la dégradation des sols, restaurer la biodiversité et soutenir les activités agro-sylvopastorales. Nous poursuivons également nos efforts de réalisation de projets sobres en carbone, résilients au changement climatique, y compris en matière de transition énergétique. Et grâce à la mise en œuvre de notre programme de mix énergétique, les énergies renouvelables représentent aujourd'hui 31% de nos capacités électriques installées, dont une importante partie en énergie solaire. Les autres composantes proviennent de l'éolien et de l'hydroélectricité. Nous exécutons en ce moment un important programme d'électrification rurale de plus de 1000 villages financés pour 75 millions d'euros en partenariat avec le Fonds Vert Climat et la Banque Ouest Africaine de Développement. Alors ces efforts seront renforcés grâce à la stratégie Gas to Power. Nous devons à ce propos nous entendre. On ne peut pas empêcher à l'Afrique d'utiliser ses énergies domestiques. Nous devons évidemment, dans cette phase de transition, veiller à ce que les solutions africaines soient sobres en carbone et résilientes, mais on ne peut pas, pour ceux qui polluent pour moins de 3%, demander que l'énergie de transition soit abandonnée. Ce serait une autre injustice faite à l'Afrique. Pour nous donc, le gaz est une énergie de transition. Et notre politique de transition énergétique vers la neutralité porte également sur le système de transport de masse avec le train express régional opérationnel depuis 2 ans qui transporte plus de 130 000 personnes par jour, qui est un train électrique, mais également le bus transit rapide dont les essais sont en cours et qui verra son exploitation avant la fin de l'année 2023. Dans le même esprit, le Sénégal a signé en juin dernier avec les partenaires du G7 son programme pour une transition énergétique juste, le JETP, avec un plan d'investissement qui prévoit la mobilisation de 2,5 milliards d'euros pour une période initiale de 3 ans. Nous avons l'ambition de porter à 40% la part des énergies renouvelables dans notre mix d'ici 2030. Cela dit, et il convient de relever que pour l'essentiel, les pays africains réalisent leurs projets verts en recourant à la dette, et vous l'avez rappelé, Monsieur le Président, alors que le financement de l'adaptation devrait être soutenu par des dons ou tout au moins des crédits concessionnels conformément aux engagements convenus dans l'accord de Paris sur le climat. Dans la perspective de la COP28, il nous faut par conséquent poursuivre le plaidoyer pour la mobilisation des ressources dédiées au financement vert. C'est la clé de voûte du combat contre le réchauffement climatique. C'est l'action climatique conséquente par une mobilisation responsable et solidaire de tous les pays, développés comme pays en développement. Pour terminer, je voudrais exprimer mon soutien à l'Alliance pour l'infrastructure verte en Afrique, initiée par la BAD, Banque africaine de développement, l'Union africaine, Africa 50, pour soutenir la réalisation des projets sobres en carbone et résilients au changement climatique. J'appelle tous les partenaires à contribuer à cette nouvelle initiative. Je remercie enfin le Centre global pour l'adaptation dans son travail de promotion pour le programme d'accélération de l'adaptation en Afrique. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A round of applause for President Macky Sall, please. Now it's the opportunity for President Jacinto Felipe Nyusi, the President of Mozambique, to make his statement. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Asante ndugu Rais Ruto, naongera kwa mkutano mzuri na kujaribu kurudisha heshima kwa Afrika. Sua Excelência William Ruto, Presidente da República do Quênia, Sua Excelência Azar Osman, Presidente de Comoros e Presidente em exercício da União Africana, ilustres chefes de Estado e de Governo, Sua Excelência Moussa Faki, o Chairman da Comissão da União Africana, Excelências, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, eu começo por agradecer o convite do Presidente Ruto e a calorosa recepção, o convite para participarmos desta Cimeira Africana sobre o clima, organizada pelo Governo do Quênia e a Comissão da União Africana. Excelências, a decisão da Assembleia da União Africana em fevereiro deste ano para a realização desta cimeira surgiu da necessidade de construirmos uma visão africana compartilhada sobre a crise climática que afeta o mundo e com muita gravidade o nosso continente. No caso específico de Moçambique, o país sofre ciclicamente o impacto das mudanças climáticas. Isto não ouvi dizer, é o que nós vivemos, praticamente a partir de fevereiro, todos os anos, agora até maio, ficamos prontos à espera que alguma coisa vai acontecer, não de uma ou duas vezes. Desde 2019, sofremos os ciclones Idai, Kenneth, Gombe, Dineo e Freddy, várias tempestades tropicais cheias e seca. O ciclone Freddy foi extraordinário, porque levou mais tempo, mais de 14 dias, e entrou no meu país 2 vezes. Entrou, saiu para o mar e voltou, tornou a vir a Moçambique, e depois saiu para o Malawi. Os desastres naturais ceifam vidas humanas e retardam o desenvolvimento de Moçambique, tal como acontece em muitos países africanos e não só. Excelência, Sr. Presidente, desde manhã as intervenções que nos precederam foram exaustivas. Tentaram explicar o que é mudanças climáticas, por que acontece e o que não se faz. Por isso, vou evitar repetir o que foi dito e gostaria de ser mais objetivo e direto, partilhando a experiência de Moçambique no que tange ações de prevenção, adaptação e mitigação das mudanças climáticas, sendo de destacar as seguintes. 1. As áreas de conservação. 25% do território nacional, isso é de Moçambique, está coberto por parques, reservas, coutadas e fazendas, incluindo áreas de proteção marinha. Neste âmbito, várias ações estão em curso, lideradas pelo governo e com a participação de parceiros privados e comunidades na proteção destas áreas, o que reduziu a caça furtiva de espécies como o elefante, rinocerontes, leão, assim como a exploração ilegal de madeira. Por que falo das comunidades? Porque muitas vezes nós falamos sozinhos. Quem vive ao longo de onde se danifica a natureza é a comunidade. Então, esta gente precisa de compreender e estar conosco para poder proteger aquilo que lhes beneficia. Falei também da fauna dos elefantes. Como se sabe, os maiores jardineiros da floresta é o animal, concretamente, neste caso concreto, o elefante. Tudo que nasce, então, se não protegermos o animal, o nosso jardim floresta pode estar a sofrer ameaças. 2. Moçambique acomoda a parte mais extensa da floresta de Miombo, que é o maior ecossistema de florestais tropicais do mundo